again. We're picking up this series today on people that met Jesus. We finished the series on Haggai and the Psalms and the return from exile last week, and now we're just going to pick up this passage again, or this theme again of people that met Jesus. And as Tom has mentioned, today we're dealing with the passage in Matthew chapter 15 or Mark chapter 7. I'm going to kind of flip a bit between the two of them because they bring a little bit of different information. It's complementary and it fills out the picture quite nicely. So if you want to turn either to Matthew 15 or Mark 7 or both, if you're clever, you can do that. And we'll just have a read and see this great story. There's been so much happening recently. There's some wonderful things going on with the youth, and Joanne's been doing a great job at gathering them Friday by Friday, summer youth camp, and so on. And keep praying for our youth to get integrated and knit into the church. And nice to see a few of them here today, but there are a lot of young people that God is doing serious, deep work in their hearts and lives. Matthew chapter 15, let's read from verse 21. Jesus went away from there and withdrew to the district of Tyre and Sidon. And there it is. You've got a map on the wall. There it is. Where's that? Well, it's in the north. It's in Lebanon. Okay, so he's going out of the boundaries of Israel proper into Lebanon, to where Tyre, Sidon, all those kind of ancient places. And the people that lived there, amongst them anyway, were these old Phoenicians, these Canaanite leftovers that Joshua hadn't dealt with and David hadn't dealt with, and nobody had dealt with them, so they were still there. Simon the Canaanite was one of the disciples. And there's all sorts of Canaanites, like Uriah the Hittite, left over, but God presumably did a work in him until David did a work in him. Anyway, Matthew chapter 15, that's where the setting is. And in Mark, that would have been funny if you knew your Bible a bit better. Sorry about that. Maybe it wasn't funny. No, it wasn't funny. Okay. Oh, that was funny then. Thank you, Liz. In Mark chapter 7, it says, from here he arose, and he went into the region of Tyre and Sidon, and he entered a house, and he did not want anyone to know. So that's the reason Jesus has gone there. He's gone for a getaway. He's had a lot of trouble with the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and even his own disciples, and he said, let's just get away. Where should we go? Somewhere nice. Let's go to Lebanon. Okay, let's go to Lebanon. So he's gone to Lebanon, and he's entered the house, doesn't want people to know that he is there, but it says, Mark chapter 7, verse 24, yet he could not be hidden. That's a great little thought there, isn't it? Jesus cannot be hidden. And he cannot. Like the sun rises and shines, and whether you like it or not, when you go out there, it's a lot sunnier and warmer than when you came in. It's going to shine on you, and you're going to feel its warmth and its heat. Jesus can't be hidden, and he isn't hidden. Even in the world today that denies him and refuses him, he cannot be hidden. He cannot be hidden from his church either. He's the Lord. And immediately, it says in Mark, immediately, as the youth know, is one of Mark's favorite words. And immediately a woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit heard of him and came and fell down at his feet. It's funny how when word travels quickly, people come to Jesus. They've heard about him, and as soon as she hears about this, love Mark's immediately, old King James Version, straight away. She's in there like a rocket, and she's knocking on the door, and Jesus is inside, and he doesn't really want to be disturbed. He's got a DND outside, but this woman isn't interested in that. She's got a need, he's got power, and she wants to make the connection. Back to Matthew. Where is it? The Canaanite woman from the region came, and she was crying out, have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. Now, this is interesting because she is addressing Jesus as the Messiah of the Jews. And what's interesting about that is that this is in chapter 15 of Matthew, and it's not until chapter 16 that Peter makes his great confession. You are the Christ. He's got another chapter. She's never been with Jesus, yet she is saying, son of David. Peter hasn't kind of got to the bottom line yet, even though he's been with Jesus. Amazing insight this woman has. Somehow, Jesus' reputation and the miracles and the rumors and everything, it's all kind of stacked up in this woman's mind in a way it hasn't with the disciples. My daughter is severely oppressed by a demon. But Jesus did not answer her a word. Why you got the DND outside? I'm on retreat. Leave me alone. And then his disciples came and begged him. What do you think they said? Lord, here's a great opportunity. Look, this woman, she's really in need of a daughter, a poor daughter. Help her, Lord, help her. None of that. None of that. He said, send her away. She's crying out after us. Jesus isn't answering, and she's saying, and they're saying, look, she's really getting on our nerves. They don't care. They're not interested in the slightest. There's no kind of affection for this Canaanite woman. It's just inconvenience. Snub her, get rid of her. He answered, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. That's not very encouraging either, is it, really? Jesus is saying, I'm on a mission, and my mission is the Jews. I was sent to the Jew first. Not to the Jew only, but to the Jew first. And that's been his priority. And she came and knelt down before him, saying, Lord, help me. Never mind the Jews a moment. You're in Lebanon now, and I'm with you. And this is my moment. Lord, help me. And he answered, it is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. And she said, yes, Lord. Yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from the master's table. Then Jesus answered her, O woman, great is your faith. Be it done for you as you desire. And her daughter was healed instantly. It's a great story. It's just a great story of persevering prayer. Liz and I went to the park this week. We drove over to Kelsey Park, and we had a nice walk, and we went round to Beckenham and had a little coffee in the shop. We got back to the car, and I pressed the button on the remote. Nothing happened. The car was locked, and the remote was dead. The battery in my remote had just died. And no matter how many times I pressed it, with how many, Liz prayed a prayer, and nothing was working. Nothing was working. I tried ringing my mate Jim from the garage down the road. Morning, Jim. And I don't know where he was, but he wasn't picking up. I tried Anthony, who says he watches us online. So good morning, Anthony. He wasn't picking up either. I think I got his old number or something. And so I ended up so I said, well, there's a garage. Liz said, actually, there's a garage down the road. Go and ask them. So I went in, and they said, oh, no, we can't do that. You'll have to get a locks, a key man, you know. Okay. And anyway, that's dead. So I went to the jeweler's, changed the battery, and I went back just in the hope that changing the battery would do it, but it's got to be reset. The only way to reset it is to put the key in the ignition, then it goes. But as the car was locked, you can't do that, you know. I've got automatic window openers on there, but they don't connect. It's not working. So I rang this guy up, and he said, yep, I can be there in 40 minutes. It'll cost you £100, and I will get into your car. So thank you. Come on, then. So Liz said, I don't really want to stand around here for 40 minutes, and then who knows how long it's going to take. So I put her in a cab, and she came home. When she got home, she rings me. She says, you've got the key for the house. So I'm stuck there with a key to the car, and I can't get in the car. Liz is stuck with a house without a key. She can't get in. So she rings Daniel. Daniel's in Nando's having dinner. She says to Daniel, can you come and let me in? He says, no, but I think I left the back door open. So, so Liz goes through the neighbours, gets over the fence or under the fence, I don't know, I wasn't there, and the door's open, so she gets in. This guy turns up, and he's keys for cars. Shane, thank you very much, from Greenwich. And he's got this little thing. And I said, how did you get into doing this? I said, were you a car thief? And, you thought you'd do things the legal way. He said, no. He said, it all started with a broken key. And I started getting that repaired, and then I got into keys and locks and trading, and then I heard about this kind of business. I thought, this is a great business to be in. So he got the van, he'd done the training, and he got this like little skeleton key, and he put it in the car, and he's fiddling around with it, and I don't know what he's doing, and he pulls it out, shoves WD-40, always helps, doesn't it? And he puts that in, and eventually it opened. I got in the car, put the key in, and we're away. Wonderful. Wonderful. Great little story, isn't it? What's the point? The point is that when you're in a situation, you've got to press in. Because eventually you will get in the house, you will get in the car, you will get the things sorted. And with Jesus sometimes, coming to Jesus, sometimes we think, oh, if I had lived a long time ago and I could have just seen Jesus face to face, it'd all be easy. If only I'd lived in Bible times, it was so much easier then, I'm sure. Well, I don't think it was, and it wasn't easy for this woman. And whether you're a believer or not, sometimes coming to Jesus is an effort. Okay, getting to church on time is an effort. Making things happen in the spiritual life is an effort. Praying is like working. It's an effort. And although we're saved by grace, not by works, we have to work sometimes and persevere in order to get hold of God and see the breakthrough and overcome the obstacles. That's what it's about this morning. There's a picture of the Syrophoenician woman. I don't know where I got that from, but it's quite nice. I like these old pictures I like it anyway. No matter how many hurdles there are, this woman just presses through, jumps over, and she seems ready for them all. And I just want to say, never give up on God. If you don't believe in God, or you do and you think he's let you down or something's going wrong, never give up on God. When I say never, I mean never. Don't give up, because there will come times, there will come temptations when you think, this isn't happening. This isn't real. This is going nowhere. In fact, it's not only not going nowhere, it's going backwards. Never give up on God. Never give up on God. Okay, this was the problem that drew her to the Lord. She says, I've got a problem. Remember that series I did a few years ago? Lord, I got a problem. We've all got problems. And the problem drove her to Jesus. And the problem that she had was her daughter. It says her daughter was oppressed by a demon. If you've got a daughter who's oppressed by a demon, I don't know whether you talk about that much. But this is this kind of serious problem that she is contending with. Oh dear, what happened to the font there? What are demons? Fallen angels. There's differences of language, whether we talk about possession, like the old Exorcist film where you're kind of completely taken over. I don't think that's what the Bible is talking about. It's talking about an oppression. It's talking about, can be at times equated to a physical condition, not always, or a mental condition, not always. It's kind of a little bit difficult to nail down. I guess that's the nature of demons. They're a bit slippery. So some physical symptoms in the Bible are demonic. There's a woman who's bent over and Jesus comes and straightens her up. Sometimes we need discernment. That's 1 Corinthians 12, the gift of discernment. What is the cause of this situation? But she's clear in her situation that it's a demon. And Jesus doesn't answer. Now, I think this is a common problem. I think this is quite a common problem when we pray, when you reach out to Jesus and you're met with silence, the silence of God. And we could look at this in all sorts of ways, just the fact that we've got problems, Jesus has got answers, but nothing's happening. psalmist says, "Be not silent, O God of my praise." This is an experience that people have had in relation to God for thousands of years. If you have experienced the silence of God, it doesn't mean he's absent, doesn't mean he isn't working, but it is very frustrating and it tests us. Okay? Sometimes God is silent because there's an underlying hostility, like when Jesus is before Herod and it says he made him no answer. He won't speak to Herod either, but that's different. There's a hostility there. He calls him that old fox, didn't he? He didn't want to speak to him. Sometimes it's to test obedience. Psalm 50 says, "You give your mouth free rein." This is God speaking. "You give your mouth free rein for evil, and your tongue frames deceit. You sit and speak against your brother. You slander your own mother's son. These things you have done, and I have been silent." People are blabbering and mouthing and cursing and doing all this kind of stuff. And God says, "And I've been silent, and you thought that I was like you. But now I rebuke you and laid a charge before you." God remains silent until he finds the time is right for him to speak. And sometimes people who've been doing a lot of speaking need to be silent. St. John of the Cross says, silence is God's first language. Interesting thought. Slow to speak, quick to listen. Okay, sometimes it tests our faith. "For God alone, my soul, wait in silence, for my hope is from him." So it's another psalm like last week's psalm, speaking to himself, instructing himself. Just wait. Just wait in the silence. Don't rush off. You're going to meet God. "For God alone, oh my soul, wait, wait, wait. My hope is from him." Come on. It's a sort of thought that I think underpins the Syrophoenician woman. Whoever belittles his neighbor lacks sense, but a man of understanding remains silent. There are times when just not good to talk. Just not good to give an opinion. I find that quite difficult sometimes. I just want to speak. A fool who keeps silent is considered wise. When he closes his lips, he's deemed intelligent. I mean, it's easy to say. If you haven't got anything intelligent to say, don't say anything. But it's not so easy to do, I know. But there we are. That's what the proverb says. There is a time to keep silence and a time to speak. That's true for God as well. Okay, so Jesus is silent, but the disciples are not. We've seen that. Send her away. She's irritating us. Get her off our case. Lord, you speak to her and tell her, go on. Now, I think at times some of the most irritating people in the world are Christians. And I hear some people laughing because they agree. I mean, not in this church. But online, there are people who speak and they have got opinions and they're out there all the time and they are very, very off-putting. I thank God I got saved. I thank God I got saved when I did get saved, because I think sometimes when I meet with certain Christians, I think I would not want to be associated with you. I'm not being judgmental. I don't think so. I'm just looking at people and I'm saying, your opinion is absolutely stupid. It's not founded on anything solid, and you're speaking nonsense. Just because you're using "thus saith the Lord," prophets I'm talking about sometimes. I think we've got some very, very successful and successful in the wrong sense, I mean, but people who pose as prophets and they got a hearing and everybody listens to them. But when you look to Scripture and the foundation of Scripture, there's not much there. They're all candy floss. And there are people out there making very strong points about not just secondary, but tertiary or whatever comes, is it quaternary? Fourth, fifth kind of issues. not the really important things, majoring on minors. Christians can be really, really irritating. These disciples are really irritating. There are people who look in history and say, Jesus I like, but look what the church did. Look what the church did in the Inquisition. Look what the church did in the Crusades. Look what the church did. They're pushing people away from Jesus. The Jews do it when they read their own history of engagement with the church. They say, look how anti-Semitic the church has been. And you can find it. You can find it in Luther. You can find it in Chrysostom. You can find really strong statements that are really negative. And then people say, I wouldn't become a Christian because look at what the followers of Jesus have done and have said. And it's an obstacle. And we should not, if we're going to be fair, we shouldn't judge Jesus by his followers, because some of them are not actually even doing what Jesus commanded. Jesus didn't command the crusaders to go into Jerusalem and cut the living daylights out of people. Wasn't very well expressed, was it? Talk about mixed metaphors, John. But I mean, the crusaders were brutal. I mean, a lot of them were just mobs who went into the Holy Land, got a banner, wanted to fight. Here's an opportunity. And they went off and they did their stuff, and they plundered and they pillaged and they did all the rest of the stuff. You can't judge Jesus by these people. They might have held up the cross, but they were not representatives of the true gospel. And people sometimes reject Jesus because of people who purport to be his followers, or even people who are his followers, but are off-putting. And this woman encounters the disciples saying, to Jesus in her presence, get rid of her. She ignores them. She ignores them because she's saying, yeah, okay, they might not be very clever followers of Jesus, but Jesus has got something I need. I'm going to get it from him. Don't judge Jesus by the failure of his followers. Don't judge Jesus by my failure. Judge Jesus by his spotless life, by his death on the cross, by his resurrection. If Jesus is who he said he is, he died, he was raised from the dead, how his followers have matched up to him over the history of the world doesn't determine whether or not he's true, whether he's the Son of God, whether he died for sins, whether he was raised from the dead. That's got nothing to do with it. It's just a red herring. It's just a nonsense. Push past it. Never blame others on your loss of faith. Okay, so then there's the social background and the spiritual heritage. Well, there is a little verse somewhere that says, cursed be Canaan. The Canaanites were the people who were living in the land. Joshua was supposed to go in and wipe them out because they were idolaters. And Jezebel was one of the Canaanites. Jezebel, who was the wife of Ahab, daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians. And her influence was ungodly. She was a follower of the Baals. That's why I guess her father was Ethbaal, of the Baals. And her ancestry and the culture still pervaded in that area. And this is where the woman came from. Jesus says, I was only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And she says, come on, Jesus, help me, help me. And then he replies to her again. He says, it's not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. Which do you prefer, the silence or this? Now, there are some people, I've preached on this passage for years, and years ago I didn't have to take this into consideration, but I think today there are some people who struggle with this. Is this racist? Is this sexist? Is Jesus calling this woman a dog? And now people are raising questions about how could Jesus be sinless and speak like this? Well, Jesus is using a word. I mean, there's dogs and dogs. Okay. Yeah. Is he talking about the one on the left or the one on the right? It makes a lot of difference, actually, as to what he's saying here. Because the picture is, because in those days, I mean, even today, the word dog in Hebrew, Caleb, is though it's a name we quite like, it's still not a good word. But there's another word. Jesus is using a different word here for a little dog, a little puppy dog, a little kind of family pet. It's kind of got an ambiguity, and you could take it either way. You could either be offended and think, Jesus, how can you speak like that? Or you could think like, actually, he's giving a parable. Here's the picture. Here's the family sitting at the table, and the dogs are part of the family. You know how some people are with dogs. They were in Jesus' day, and they're throwing all the tidbits. And Jesus is kind of saying, look, the Jews, they're the children. You know, the promises were for Abraham and his descendants. And she's saying, yeah, but the dogs are part of the family. And I can get the tidbits, and all I want is a tidbit. I want my daughter to be healed. Even the dogs get the crumbs under the table, and some of them are quite choice. You know, this is a battle of wits. And she's saying, this is the way I'm going to take it. I am going to come, not on the basis that I've done anything good or I deserve it, but you are good, and your grace extends beyond just the immediate household. Even the Gentiles, even the ones who are under the curse of Canaan, even the ones who are outsiders and are far off. Hang on a minute, that's me. That's you. We're not like Paul, born Jews of the tribe of Benjamin, circumcised on the, which day, 7th day, 8th day? We've got no spiritual pedigree like that. Neither does this woman. And she says, the crumbs are there for me. She comes in humility. She's not coming demanding. She's coming appealing, not on the basis of who she is or what she's got to offer. She's just coming to Jesus as she is. There are great promises for the Gentiles. I'm not going to go into all those. But here's some things to remember. Jesus doesn't flatter her. Jesus doesn't say, oh, I'm so glad you came. I've been wanting some Gentiles in the back here. We come because Jesus is gracious, because he's compassionate, because he's got a place in his heart for us. We are sinners. This woman accepts her position. She comes with humility. She comes helpless. But faith finds the way through. Faith pushes past the silence, pushes past all the gabble of the disciples, pushes past even the seeming negatives. Sometimes you read stuff in the Bible and you think, my goodness me, I don't like the sound of that. That doesn't sound like it's for me. You've got to push past those things sometimes, the stumbling blocks. People who read, chosen in him before the foundation. Oh, I don't think God would choose me. And you begin to feel, no, God would never choose me. You've got to push past that sometimes. Those feelings, those rebellious feelings, those unbelieving feelings, those feelings that God is not interested in me. And you lay hold of him anyway. And you push in and suddenly you find he's all love. He's all compassion. He's overflowing in grace. He's merciful towards me. I really didn't deserve it. I really was a sinner. I really was helpless. And this woman was practiced at the art of finding comfort from her troubles. Some people are practiced at finding just the opportunity to moan. She does not. Praise God. She's such an example. Some of us maybe have got a bit of a gloomy disposition. You get a pain, you think you're dying. I'm serious. You know, some of us are like that. We get a pain, or we get this, I've got COVID. If I get COVID, it'll be long COVID, it'll be serious COVID. But some people, like this woman, if there's promises, they're for me. If there's promises, I'll have them. If I can't get the main meal, I'll get the crumbs. There's something to be had here. Jesus is here. Face to face with this woman, she said, I'll get whatever I can. She is a tonic and a rebuke for all doubters and all melancholics. I'm a bit on the melancholic side at times. She's a rebuke. She's a tonic. She says, come on, lay hold of God. Do you need something from God today? Do you need to know God today? Do you need to meet Jesus and have an encounter? You're in the right place. This is where he meets. Where the word is preached and where the sacrament is dispensed. That's where the true church meets. That's where God has said, this is the place where I dwell. This is the place where I come. This is the place where I meet with people and lives are changed. And circumstances are changed. Perspectives, outlooks are changed. Faith sometimes sets one truth next to another and always looks for the promises. Always kind of climbs a little bit higher, presses through. Jesus says, oh, woman, great is your faith. I mean, when Jesus speaks to the disciples, he says, what's the matter with you? Don't you believe? Peter, where's your faith? Where is your faith? But to this woman, he says, great is your faith. Great. Well done. It's marvelous, isn't it, that Jesus commends a Gentile woman over an issue that he has to rebuke his own disciples. Whatever our present struggles, whatever your situation, there are things that are reserved for heaven. You can't get it all now. But there is power. The Christian life, if anything, is a life of power. It's a transforming power. There is a power that is available. If you've got a demonic problem, or you've got doubts, or you've got a physical ailment, whatever it is, there is power. There's power for you to overcome. There's a promise of God for the here and now. Jesus often says things like, I will. If you are willing, you can make me clean. I will, says Jesus. I will never leave you or forsake you. Therefore, we can say, he is my help and my strength. There is hope. There is peace now. There is comfort. There is joy. And therefore, I'm going to end where I've started. Never give up on God. If you want to give up on God, just come back to the cross. Just come back to the cross and realize that Jesus is the one who actually did press through. He pressed through all the oppression of the devil, all the discouragements of disciples, all the issues of opposition. He never said, why on earth did I come into this world for such people as this? I just can't be bothered anymore. Forget it. He's in the garden in agony and he's praying, Father, if it's possible, take this cup from me, but not my will, but yours be done. He's persevering and he's fighting the fight for you, for me. He's pressing through. He's laying hold of the promises of God, not for his own safety and salvation, but for yours and mine. This is the Jesus that we come to, that we say, never give up on him, the one who gave everything for us.